Good afternoon, environmental scientists. It is Tuesday, February 27th, 2018. It is about 3:15 in the afternoon. I had intended on getting this out to you earlier today, but my recording equipment was not cooperating with me, and so my apologies for getting this out later in the day on Tuesday than I had planned. Also, just want to say hello again. It's been a few weeks since I've done one of these video updates, and so I just want to say that I have enjoyed reading what you're all having to say online. I'm getting caught up on the grading, it looks like, and the vast majority of us have really started to kind of figure out, the routine for the semester, and so I appreciate all the hard work. This week's going to look a little different, and so that's why I'm here this afternoon to explain to you what you're going to be doing online this week and for the next couple of weeks in response to the new material that we'll be looking at. So, it's week 8, which means that you should start looking at chapter 8 in the textbook, and the only difference this week is that you're not only going to look at chapter 8, but you're also going to look at chapter 9. But instead of responding in the normal format that we've been doing all semester through environmental news and critical thinking assignments, this week what I'm going to have you do is something a little different. And so to get started, what you'll want to do is click on the discussions link up here at the top of the screen. Make sure that you're logged in. And in the discussion board, underneath the Learning and Teaching forum, is a forum called General Discussion. And so this is where you did your welcome and introductions at the beginning of the semester. And that's where you're going to submit the work that you do for this next round of assignments. And so I'm calling it Chapter 8 and 9 Synthesis. And when you're ready to submit, click on Chapter 8 and 9 Synthesis, start a new thread, and submit your work like you've been doing. The only thing that's going to look a little different is what you end up turning in. And so let me talk a little bit about what you're going to do this week. Oops, that's the wrong thing. So Chapter 8 and 9 Synthesis for Environmental Science Online Spring 2018. Well, what's a synthesis? Well, a synthesis is an opportunity for you to reflect and respond on what you've been reading and talking about in this class, while also providing a space for you to include your own thoughts and ideas and your well-informed opinions. So it's not just a summary of material, but it's a summary with your own added interpretation, if you'd like to think of it that way. So the Chapter 8 and 9 synthesis will consist of about, I would guess, 10 to 15 slides. That could be PowerPoint, it could be a Prezi, could be other forms of presentation media that you are familiar with. Keynote, possibly, if that's what you're into. And it's going to be covering the material from Chapter 8 and 9 in your textbook. What I do not want is a simple repeat of what's in the textbook. So do not just copy and paste content from the textbook. Don't just simply summarize what's in chapters 8 and 9, but tell us what you think and feel about these issues. This is an opportunity for us to hear your voice directly from your mouth. And so don't just summarize the chapter, but summarize it and then add your own level, add your own layer of interpretation. The reason I do this in chapters 8 and 9 is because chapter 8 and 9 are both focused on this idea of sustaining biodiversity. One chapter looks at this through a lens of the ecosystem approach, so how to preserve ecosystems. The other chapter looks at it through the lens of species preservation. And so they're both focused on this idea of sustaining biodiversity, but both come at it from a little different angle. But there are two chapters that go together nicely. So that's why we do this with Chapter 8 and 9. One caveat, I suppose, one detail that I want to stress is that these slides, these presentations, need to be narrated in some way, shape, or form. I'll walk you through kind of a how-to PowerPoint slide narration in just a couple of seconds here. You're also welcome to try what's called a screencast. And so that's what I'm doing here. Screencast is basically a presentation kind of floating around in the background here, and then a video or some other sort of video media down in a corner of the screen so that we can actually see you and hear you as you talk. I'm using a website called Screencast-O-Matic to make all of this work. It does require access to a webcam, and so that may be a limiting factor for some of us. So I'll explain Screencast-O-Matic here in just a minute or two. I thought that it would make more sense maybe to start with the narration, how to narrate a PowerPoint slide and include audio, because that's probably going to be a little easier for some of us. So how to narrate a PowerPoint slide. So I'm going to get rid of this really quick. So you've got some text here on your PowerPoint slide, blah, blah, blah. Maybe you've got some pictures in here or some video embedded, links, etc. You've got more than just text on your slide, so you can pretend there. And now you're interested in inserting some audio. We want to be able to hear your voice as you talk to us about the material on your slide. And so if I'm working in PowerPoint, I should mention that I'm working in PowerPoint. I'm not working in Google Slides. And so I'm not sure how this works in Google Slides. That's something that you may need to do a little bit of exploring on your own for. Otherwise, if you don't have PowerPoint on your machine at home, you're always welcome to come to campus and use some of our equipment. And so you'll need to get access to some sort of presentation material. To insert audio into the PowerPoint slides, then, if I'm looking at this ribbon across the top, I click on the tab that says Insert, and then down here on the far right end, I click on this icon that says Audio, and then I'd like to record audio. This gives me a little pop-up window that allows me to record sound. If I click on this little button with the red dot, that will record. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Hopefully this works. Hit stop, and then OK. And then it leaves behind this little icon that looks like a speaker. And when I go into presentation mode, then, I mouse over that thing, and I hit play. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Hopefully this works. It's always weird when you hear your own voice. Anyway, that's how I embed audio into my PowerPoint slide, and you can put those up in the right-hand corner or left-hand corner or wherever you'd like so that they're out of the way. But people see that little icon and they know they can click it. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Hopefully this works. And you can hear yourself narrating the slides. And so this is one way that we can get a chance to hear you talking about these ideas. If you want to try something a little more challenging, I would encourage you to use Screencast-O-Matic. I will include the link to Screencast-O-Matic in these slides, which you'll be able to find in the discussion board for this assignment. But Screencast-O-Matic, again, like I said, it does require a webcam, but it's very simple and very straightforward. Once you've downloaded the right software, then it's just a start recording, and it asks you a couple of questions about where you want your video to be and whether you want to have the desktop visible, those kind of things. And then what you can do is actually upload your video. Your Screencast-O-Matic video can be uploaded to YouTube. And so that's how I've been doing this all semester for these video updates that I've been sending you all. I want to just really briefly give you an example of a couple of samples of work that students did in semesters past. And so here's a PowerPoint presentation from a student from a couple semesters ago. She was looking at illegal killing and capturing of species. And I don't know if you can hear this or not, but she's got a little music going in the background, which is really neat. So you could try figuring that out too. If I go to the next slide here, she's got some slides.
2/3 live animals die in live transit.
So she's narrating, telling us about
and fur are worth $150,000.
giving us some stats about gorillas, pandas, and rhinos.
And fur are worth The horn is worth $500,000.
So she's narrating this, does a wonderful job. Here she's got her, I guess if you put these audio things off to the edge of the slide, then they just kind of play automatically. So she's talking to us a little bit about some of the things that she found interesting in chapters 8 and 9. Let's listen to this one really quick.
All 7 species of sea turtles are endangered or threatened.
So she's got a little slide there about sea turtles. I'm going to show you a couple other examples. So that's a narrated PowerPoint. Couple other examples now of things that ended up getting put on YouTube. And so here's a student's video. He shot it with Screencast-O-Matic and then put it on YouTube.
I think that chapters 8 and 9 are mostly about how animals are important and that extinction is a real problem.
So he's talked a little bit about extinction. He's talking about invasive species. He's talking about poaching and hunting animals for things like tusks and horns.
Forests are very important. They have been here for a very long time and remove carbon dioxide from the air.
He's talking about forest ecosystems. And so he did an amazing job of getting his work up onto YouTube. Here's another example of a video that was shot using Screencast-O-Matic and then put into YouTube.
What role do humans play in the loss of species and ecosystem services? Extinction and threatened or endangered species. Biological extinction is when species can no longer be found on Earth.
For the interest of time, I'm going to pause this. But there's another example of a YouTube video version of the synthesis, chapter 8 and 9 synthesis. One other example of student work from last semester is a website. It's not narrated, which I was a little disappointed with, but you know, if you're not going to narrate it, at least put something together that's creative and original. And so this student did a really nice job putting together a website about sustaining ecosystems. And so she's got a little quiz in here. She's got a video. She's got some other content. And so she put this together with Weebly.com, which is a pretty straightforward website developing tool. And so you can kind of see a couple of different examples of what I'd like you to be able to produce here. Whether it's a narrated PowerPoint slide in the first example like I showed you, maybe you try your hand at YouTubing your screencast, or maybe you want to create a website. Some form of media that helps communicate your thoughts and ideas about the material in chapter 8 and 9 is what I'd like you to complete. Couple of last things here before I run out of time. So it's going to be due on the Friday after we come back from spring break. So we've got class this week. Next week we're off for spring break, and then we've got another week after that. So at the end of that week, after we come back from spring break, this will be due, and it's going to be worth 20 points, and this will include you watching and replying to at least one of your classmates' presentation. So, all right, I'm running out of time here, people. So that's the chapter 8 and 9 synthesis. Please email me if you have questions about anything. I really look forward to reading what and listening to what you have to say about the material in chapter 8 and 9. This is always a really fun assignment for me and for the students. It gives you a chance to do something other than just read and write. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye. And if you have questions about anything, please reach out to me.